Hello everyone, my name is Amy Abdel-Malak and my presentation is going to be on the current whale of a challenge regarding the sustainability in whale watching while dealing with COVID-19 impacts on tourism. As you can see, I've split my presentation into 4 major sections: background, literature, methodology and methods, and conclusion. I'd first like to address my positionality. I was born and raised in Thunder Bay, Ontario, located on the lands of the Fort William First Nation, signatory to the Robinson Superior Treaty. I have an honors Bachelor of Science in Geography from Lakehead University. I'm a first-generation Canadian currently living in Prince George on the traditional territory of the Lheidli T'enneh as an MA NRES Geography candidate at UNBC. This is the second semester of my first year. Being from northwestern Ontario, I am new to both coastal geography and whale watching tourism. I have, however, experienced the strains of working for a locally owned business during COVID-19 and the growing pains of adjusting to new regulations. Before COVID-19, BC's tourism was on trend for continued growth. Once COVID-19 struck, however, revenues were estimated to be only a third of what was originally projected. Now in 2021, tourist-dense areas are seeing an alarming number of interprovincial visitors, creating a divide between the health sector and tourist operators that rely on the revenue to stay afloat. The almost entire stop to tourism traffic has created a unique opportunity for shifting towards greater sustainability and resiliency in whale-watching tourism. I will be investigating the experience had throughout COVID-19 in each of the locales chosen regarding whale-watching tour operators. I will be aiming to answer 2 major questions in my research. First, how has COVID-19 impacted whale-watching tour operators in Ucluelet, which can be seen in the top map, and Prince Rupert, which can be seen in the bottom map? Second, what perspectives do tour operators have when considering whale-watching tourism and re-emerging from the current era? Have they made successful adaptations? Have they acquired strategies throughout? How are tour operators feeling about the coming whale-watching seasons, and why? My theoretical framework is constructed by 3 prongs. First, the theory on sustainability, with emphasis on economic growth and policy, as well as vulnerability. Lauda-Rodriguez explains that we are facing the weaknesses of overexhausting resources on a limited planet, overlapping the objective generation profit over people's dignity. In a previous slide, there was an article about the outcry from the tourism industry about a provincially enforced travel ban that would hinder the business's ability to remain open. Although it is important to take precaution in these times, it has been a point of criticism that there is bias in these restrictions. The Rio Theatre, for example, a renowned theater in Vancouver, was unable to open as a theater, but in changing their title to a sports bar, are able to conduct business and follow the restrictions. It is also important to acknowledge that yes, the restrictions should be unbiased, but communities independently are able to state whether they wish to have visitors. Currently, the province allows travel. However, Ucluelet's tourism website asks for the support of tourists in ways that do not involve visiting, though their attractions are still running, so tourists may visit if they so choose, whereas Prince Rupert's tourism website encourages visitors. Both websites have up-to-date guidelines on their sites and ask that anyone visiting follows them closely. Second, local knowledge, with emphasis on impacts throughout the pandemic and planning pre- and post-COVID-19. An article by Hystad investigating impacts of a forest fire in Kelowna, BC, states that despite negative impacts disasters or crises may have on tourism, there is little preemptive planning within the industry. Despite preemptive planning for a global health crisis being impossible, it will be a point to see if any operators had plans for any other sort of disaster or crisis and if they will following COVID-19, or if planning for such a thing without assistance is even accessible. Third, tourism and crises, which aided in determining the best term for my project, and COVID-19 as a crisis in tourism. Giulio et al. Emphasizes in their article how this widens the abyss between nations and social groups, and new values are needed in order to move forward successfully. This crisis, combined with globalization, is unlike anything seen before, and acknowledging it as such is crucial in order to create meaningful change. I have also been doing reading within these other topics, focusing on tourism geographies. In Butler's Tourism in the Future, Cycles, Waves, or Wheels, he discusses the trend of bouncing back stronger after short-term downturns. The COVID-19 pandemic is unique to the examples provided, as it has had severe global impacts and has had longer-term effects. It will be interesting to see if this statement still applies when the downturn is long-term rather than short-term. Whale watching literature has mainly been focused on its growth and popularization, being referred to as, quote, the largest growth sector in global tourism by Malcolm. The popularity and potential of whale watching tourism can provide background for the importance to the economy it has in the chosen locales. Economic geography and sustainable tourism literature explain the sort of double-edged sword when considering expansion and remaining sustainable. As stated by Cheer and Liu, this emphasizes the importance of taking this opportunity of rethinking to focus on sustainability and resiliency. I will be conducting a comparative qualitative case study. This is an appropriate choice for my research, as the data collected will not always be quantifiable. Because my research has 2 locations in very different regions of the province, comparing the collected data from both sites will allow for it to be displayed in a consumable way. My methods will be comprised of field observations and interviewing local tour operators. My field observations, examples pictured to your right, will consist of photos and videos, field notes, field recordings, and tour participation. And my interviews will consist of a maximum of 30 participants for both locations. The expected outcomes for my project are to create a dual data set for the COVID-19 era regarding whale watching tourism in Ucluelet and Prince Rupert, offer insights into how whale watching tour operators have fared and strategized, and inform planning for sustainability in whale watching tourism in both locations. This research is beneficial to be running now because government subsidies will exist in order to aid recovery. The pandemic has been ongoing for about a year now, so discussion can be had for the whale watching tour operators before COVID, during the initial shock, and now having had more experience dealing with constantly changing restrictions. This could provide opportunity to really evaluate if COVID-19 is allowing to, in a sense, push the restart button on tourism and really evaluate how we are restarting. Thank you all for taking the time to watch my presentation. Questions and feedback are welcome now or via email or Twitter, which are both on the screen and also in the description box along with my references.